Hello, Scott Sherrick here. I'm a business partner with HRBoost. As I thought about today's training, I thought, you all work for one of the greatest companies in the world. I say that because your company has chosen to invest time in your leadership growth that could very well carry with you all your career. We know that growth in leadership is a journey. Today's content, I have lots of things to say about leadership. Today, I'm going to talk to you about 4 parts of leadership. There's lots of ideas intermingled in these parts, so open up your handouts and follow along. I want to start with leadership defined. I want to describe a mental shift that all leaders need to go through. I want to discuss 4 key roles of leadership, and then I'm going to end with a leader's greatest challenge. Much of today's content is based on the writings of Dr. John Maxwell. Dr. John Maxwell was called by Inc. magazine the greatest leadership and management expert in the world. Capitalizing on our time today, there's 2 key things that I think you need to keep in mind as you think about this content today. The first, use this content to examine yourself. Be vulnerable. You must know yourself to grow yourself. You must know yourself to grow yourself. And then take initiative. Growth doesn't just happen. Action is required, right? So, growth as a leader. I've worked for 25 years in the field of human resources. I've trained and coached hundreds of staff and faculty and leaders. And it's what I love to do. In 2001, I attended a training to grow as a leadership coach and trainer. I did this as part of my own personal leadership growth journey. Here's what I've learned. Growth in leadership is not complicated. It should not overwhelm you. In fact, growth happens in small steps taken daily. And as Chris Robinson, the vice president of coach training in the program that I attended, used to say when he saw us being overwhelmed with the content and the techniques and the experience that we need to gain before we can be effective coaches and trainers, he used to say this with a big smile on his face. He used to say, learn a little, do a little. Learn a little, do a little. That was so helpful. Leadership defined. I see 2 sides to leadership. The first side is the relational side. Dr. John Maxwell has said, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Then there's the tactical side. Effective leadership is putting first things first. Effective management is discipline carrying it out. That's Dr. Stephen Covey. Most of our time today, we'll be talking about the relational side of leadership, but there's going to be a mix of some tactical things as well. Both skills are needed. So leadership requires a shift from being a soloist who is a subject matter expert, project finisher, effective worker, and someone who spends all their time working. A shift from and then to being a conductor. You go from a subject matter expert to overseeing experts, a project finisher to a project coordinator, an effective worker to leaders of effective workers, and then all your time working to spending time also leading. So now I want to talk to you about 4 key roles of a leader. 4 key roles of a leader. A communicator. A leader is a navigator. A leader is one who serves, and a leader is a coach. So let's start with a communicator. Dr. John Maxwell wrote a book called Everyone Communicates and Few Connect. And so The effectiveness of communication is the ability to connect with people. In his book, Becoming a Person of Influence, he talks about 4 connecting points. The first is find common ground with people. Find common ground in what you've both done, what you've been, the skills that you share, or the characteristics that you share. Find common ground in order to connect. Know your audience. Next is keep your communications simple. Let your speech be organized, clear, concise, timely. Becoming a good communicator can be learned. I remember a very helpful ancient Hebrew proverb that says, "A wise person teaches their mouth and adds learning to their lips." A wise person teaches their mouth and adds learning to their lips. Another important factor in being a good connector is to practice focused listening. This is foundational. You need to know your audience, and the way to do that is to listen to them. I like this quote from Paul Tillich. He says, "The first duty of love is to listen." And then finally, be authentic, be upfront, get things on the table. Don't hold back in your communication, but communicate in a way that is caring. There is a phrase that I really like to use, and I've talked about in training with supervisors, and it's the phrase care fronting. It's a balance between talking about the goals that need to be managed and accomplished and the care for the individual who's doing the work. Both are important, and there needs to be a balance between both. Think about that phrase, care fronting, the next time you have to address something that's rather hard. The single most important skill of a leader is to be a good communicator. One who serves. To one who serves, people matter. Leaders touch the heart before they ask for a hand. The first thing to do as you try to serve people is you need to know your people. Anytime I had a new employee or came into a new work area, I was in the habit of doing one-to-ones with all the folks that I supervised as a beginning point. I'd like to get to know their Myers-Briggs personality type, their top 5 strengths in the Strength Finder, perhaps if they've taken the DISC. I want to understand their preferences, their strengths, their weaknesses, the things they most enjoy and least enjoy in the workplace. And then I would share mine as well. So I'd really make an effort right out of the gate to get to know people. Next, show support regularly. This is both with successes and failures. I love the story about Jackie Robinson. He was an All-American baseball hero. He was the first Black major league player, and he often faced jeering, threats, and abuse. One day, he made an error on his home field in Brooklyn, New York, and fans were livid. They ridiculed him incessantly. Shortstop Pee Wee Reese came up to Robinson, put his arm around him, and just stood quietly and faced the crowd. The crowd got quiet. Robinson later said that Reese's arm around him may have saved his career. What did Reese do? He showed support during a difficult time. It's a great quality of someone who serves other people. Next, go to where they are. Tom Peters, a well-known management expert, has said this: the number one managerial productivity problem in America is quite simply managers who are out of touch with their people and out of touch with their customers. You need to go to where they are, understand their context and their environment, both of your employees, but also of customers. Go to where they are. That will serve them. And then finally, regularly offer hope. especially when a person fails. So, quick story. I had a supervisor named Les. I worked for a cabinet manufacturer in the custom cabinet department, and I would take finished raw materials, but they were finished, and I would use those and modify either an existing cabinet or create something that would complete a particular kitchen. And sometimes I would take that a large piece of finished material. People have invested a lot of time in getting that material just a certain way. Put it on the table saw or the bandsaw, and miscalculate how I was supposed to cut that, and then I would really be discouraged. And Les, he was such an amazing guy. He would come up and he would do something that I called ESP. Now, extrasensory perception, but there was a different, emphasis that I had with him. It was empathy, sympathy, and patience. The first thing he would do is he would tell me a story of a failure that he had similar to what I had just done. And he would stand there with his $1,000,000 smile and talk to me about this failure. And then he would begin the process with me, the difficulty that I had just faced. And we'd walk through thinking about, okay, what could I have done differently? How do I avoid that in the future? And he was just so patient. So he was empathetic, sympathetic, and patient. And it really helped me to both learn and to rebound quickly. So offer hope to people. It's a great tool in serving people. The next role of a leader is that they're a navigator, that they look ahead. A navigator charts a course. A navigator is one who sees more than others see, who sees farther than others see, and who sees before others see. I love that. Sees more, sees farther, and sees before. And that requires getting out in front and anticipating down the road where people are going to be coming and actually scouting out and doing some planning to help them as they travel. I want to share with you an acrostic, and this acrostic is the acrostic Plan Ahead that you could use as a tool in your planning as a navigator. First, the word plan. You start with predetermine the course. Next, you lay out your goals. Next, you align your priorities, which has to do with time. And then next, you notify personnel. And this is a real key turning point, along with the next item, allow people time to embrace the plan and to interact with it, and maybe to give input that would improve it. Don't underestimate the skills and the abilities of the people you lead. In fact, push them and listen to them. And then head into action. Expect problems. Problems are always going to be part of any good endeavor. And then always point to successes. As my wife and I raised 5 children, one of the things we used to say to one another is, take what you can get as close to what you want. And then we would celebrate those small successes. Take what you can get as close to what you want. I'm going to challenge you with that thought as you lead people. And then finally, daily review your plan. A navigator makes sure that their conclusions represent facts, but then also there is a significant element of faith. Just like someone on the open sea would use a compass to chart a course and maps, there is the faith that they'll be able to navigate the seas when the waves well up and the weather turns. And so there is always an element of faith to get through the unexpected. Finally, a leader is a coach. This is the broadest area of leadership, and there's 5 skills that I want to share with you or talk about. The first is the skill area of being a motivator, calling others to action, a positive call to action, a voice of expectation. encouraging collaborative work. Next, a coach is a teacher. A teacher is always a learner and always trying to understand others and teach to their style. They're a skill developer, both proactively, anticipating what's going to be needed, but then also reactively teaching in those teachable moments. Next, a coach is an evaluator. They encourage self-assessment. They set up check-ins with their people to confirm shared understanding, to discuss obstacles, and to offer support. As mentioned before, they use the skills of a carefronter, balancing goals and honesty and thinking about the person and their particular learning style. Next, a coach is an encourager, someone who observes and affirms and gives shout outs to people. Be intentional about this. Be a good observer. Regularly say thank you to people. It just means so much to them. There's a great little book, a very narrow, small book called Balcony People. And it's just that. It's the leader who's in the balcony cheering on their people as they're performing, as they're working. In that book, it compares and contrasts balcony people with basement dwellers, those who are in the basement watching things that are circling the drain. Don't be a basement person, be a balcony person. And then finally, be a problem solver, remove obstacles, work collaboratively with people, identify and remove obstacles for others, lead in collaborative problem solving. Here's a good practice that I want to just challenge you with. It's very common for there to develop a mama bird and baby bird relationship between employees and supervisors. Employees will come with a problem and just want to be fed with a solution. And I want to challenge you to develop your people by challenging them and asking them anytime they have a problem to bring three solutions to the table. They don't have to be perfect, but to bring those to the table and to prioritize those from best to worst, and then to talk through those with you. It gives you an opportunity to weigh in, but then it also challenges them to develop as problem solvers. So a coach. Trust is foundational in the coaching relationship, and character, that some of the characteristics and the character qualities that I've just mentioned are foundational. Character makes people trust, and it helps in your leadership. So, summarizing the primary aim of a leader, is to add value to others. I love the quote by Robert Gross, former president of Lockheed. He said this to a group of supervisors: "It's one thing to build a product. It's another thing to build a company, because companies are nothing more than people, and the things that come out of them are no better than the people themselves. We don't build automobiles, airplanes, refrigerators, and radios. We build people, and it's the people that build the product." Love that. Effective leaders add value to others, and I want to challenge you. Focus on adding value daily. Add as much value as possible, as often as possible. Never wait or postpone to add value. Make it a priority. Give without keeping score, so motives stay pure. And then welcome any return as an unexpected blessing. Effective leaders add value to others. Now let's turn to the final of the 4 points, a leader's greatest challenge. Dr. John Maxwell is often asked what his greatest leadership challenge is, and he has said this: if I could kick in the pants the person who has caused me the most grief as a leader, I would not be able to sit down for a week. Love that. Leading yourself, it's a challenge. It's your greatest challenge. So here are 4 areas to focus on as you think about leading yourself. Learn followership, develop self-discipline, practice patience, and seek accountability. Learn followership, develop self-discipline, practice patience, and seek accountability. Leading yourself. Learn followership. Bishop Fulton Sheen once remarked, civilization is always in danger when those who have never learned to obey are given the right to command. Boy, he got that right. Good followers know how to lead others well because they've seen good leaders and they've been good followers. You need to understand your followers' world. Leaders who have not followed well tend to be prideful, unrealistic, rigid, and autocratic. And the best leaders know this. Sometimes we lead, sometimes we serve. Self-discipline. It's been said that Frederick the Great of Persia was walking along the outskirts of Berlin when he encountered a very old man walking straight towards him in the opposite direction. "Who are you?" Frederick asked. "I'm a king," the man said. "A king?" Frederick laughed. "Over what kingdom do you reign?" "Over myself," was the proud old man's reply. In our maturity, we want to conquer the world. When we are wise, we want to conquer ourselves. Develop self-discipline. Self-discipline begins with a decision to start a new habit, followed by an action regardless of how we feel. Each one of us is a monarch of our own lives. We are responsible for ruling our actions and our decisions. Next, practice patience. There are 4 things I want to talk about here. Leaders can be remarkable by being one step ahead. They think ahead, they want to improve, and that can be really good. Being one step ahead makes you a leader. However, that can be bad also because there is no instant greatness. Few worthwhile things come quickly. We're used to instant oatmeal, call ahead coffee, microwave popcorn, instant answers from Google. My gosh. Good leadership doesn't grow that way. Good leadership is a crock pot preposition. Encourage yourself with this reality. You're going to grow step by step. So it's worth the wait. Leading well is not about crossing the finish line first. It's to take people across the finish line with you. Leading well is not about crossing the finish line first. It's about taking people across the finish line with you. So be deliberate, slow your pace, stay connected with your people, enlist others to help and keep people going. You can't do it if you're running too far ahead. And finally, seek accountability. And that starts with weaknesses. Admit your weaknesses. It builds trust. It builds trust because people who know you, they see your weaknesses. And if you're honest about them, they trust you more, right? Embrace realistic people. In 2003, I was spearheading a teamwork initiative on a campus that I worked on, and I picked a bunch of the best team players that I could to be on the steering committee and the to develop some initiatives for teamwork. But I also picked some people who were good people, good workers, but tended to be whiners. I picked those people because they seem to be realistic, and especially about the progress that did or didn't happen as big initiatives were coming, and they were helpful in that process to the whole group. Ask for honesty. There's a good story about Harry Truman. Following his inauguration, the Speaker of the House, Rayburn, pulled him aside and said this. Imagine this. From here on out, you're going to have lots of people around you. They'll try to put a wall around you and cut you off from the ideas of others. They'll tell you that you're a great man, Henry, but you and I, sorry, Harry, but you and I know that you aren't. What a story. Try to find the value in hard criticism. Find the value in hard criticism. As a new supervisor, a new HR director at a small college that I worked at years ago, I took an initiative, a policy into the leadership team of the university. I laid it out and I was just pummeled with questions about the policy, which made me realize I had not been thorough enough in the way I developed this policy. I couldn't answer a number of the questions that were being asked. When I got back to my office, my boss walked into my office and he said something to me that I'll never forget. He said, "Scott, you're like a runaway train." I just sunk in my spirit. He went on to say, when you're the HR director, when you go into a meeting like that, you should know more than anybody else in the room. You should anticipate all the questions that people are going to ask you and have answers for those. You need to be thoroughly prepared. In fact, he went on to say, you need to know what the president had for breakfast that day. Okay, point taken. Be thorough. I struggled with this all weekend. Oh my gosh. I felt embarrassed. I wanted to crawl into my desk. Over the course of the weekend, though, I thought and thought and thought, and I finally came to the place where I said to myself, if I do what my boss says to do, will I be better? Yeah, but the way he delivered that. No. If I do what he tells me to do, will I in fact be better? What I realized is I would. In fact, if I practiced diligently what he told me, I could be really good. So I developed a little phrase that I put over, I put on my wall, a little PowerPoint phrase. It says this: if excellence is my direction, I'm receptive to correction, no matter how it's delivered. If excellence is my direction, I'm receptive to correction, no matter how it's delivered. Scotty Fresh, that's my Instagram nickname from my high school boys and girls, my 5 kids, a name I try to live up to, by the way. And then find an accountability partner, a boss, a peer, or even a trusted subordinate, someone who's going to be honest with you, and someone who can act as a sounding board. Review of today's content. Leadership defined. We talked about 2 sides to leadership: relational leadership and technical leadership. Relational is influence, technical is put first things first, and moving things to completion. We talked about a shift in mindset from a soloist, focusing on your own work, to a conductor, focusing on your team and leading them. We talked about 4 roles of a leader and a leader's greatest challenge. The 4 roles of a leader: they're a communicator, a navigator, one who serves, and a coach. The leader's greatest challenge is leading themselves. And to do that, you need to learn followership, develop self-discipline, practice patience, and seek accountability. Remember this about your growth. It's not complicated. Don't let it overwhelm you. Growth happens in small steps. So learn a little, do a little. Learn a little, do a little. Examine yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself to grow yourself, to know yourself. Take initiative. Growth doesn't just happen, action is required. So I want to challenge you at the end of your handout are 3 self-evaluation exercises. Complete those as part of the know yourself aspect of this training. And then I want to challenge you to set a date and go through a free 30-day growth plan. It's simple, practical, and doable. It'll take you about an hour. Go to this website, and what you'll see there are 9 roughly 6-minute videos that will walk you through a 6-step growth plan. You can use it as a 30-day plan, but you can also use it as a 6-month or an annual plan. And I want to encourage you to take the free leadership evaluation offered by the John Maxwell team. This is further evaluation in order for you to assess strengths and weaknesses and set some targets for your own growth. Much of what this presentation is based on are the books, some of the books of my mentor, Dr. John Maxwell. I highly recommend all of these books. Get them on Audible, listen to them while you drive or clean your house or whatever. So here they are, the 15 irrefutable, invaluable laws of growth, the 15 irrefutable laws of leadership, developing the leader within you. Everyone communicates if you connect, leaders shift, becoming a person of influence. One reporter once said to John Maxwell, you know, your books are on leadership, they're kind of simple. And while he acknowledged that, you know, he shares lots of stories and he shares lots of great quotes. While he acknowledged some of the simplicity of his books, he said this, they might be simple to understand, but they're not simple to do. And that's true. And so that's the reason why learn a little, do a little. And I also want to commend to you a team building tool. It's called The 6 Types of Working Geniuses by Patrick Lencioni. You gotta get a handle on this book. Take the assessment and look through this model of teamwork. It's fantastic. So, Scott Sherrick, I'm an HR business partner with HR Boost. I challenge you to excel as a leader. You all work for one of the greatest companies in the world because this company is willing to invest in your growth as a leader. Make your leadership journey a growth journey. And let me leave you with this thought. The question to ask with growth is not, when will I arrive? The question is, how far can I go?